Guys, Blue Hair and Bassin here today, and I want to bring a little different video than I usually do for YouTube. While I was fishing today, I was casting my baitcaster, and it just dawned on me, hey, I should post a video on people who get bird's nests in their baitcasters with a really bad backlash. So I came in, I gave myself a horrible bird's nest, and I filmed this footage of me getting some bird's nests out of my baitcaster. I found a really good system for actually getting the line untangled in your bird's nest and getting that backlash out. Since 3 years since I started using my baitcaster, I have not had to cut line in one of those bird's nests I've gotten. So like and subscribe in the video for more fishing content, and let's get started. Yeah, so the first thing you're going to want to do when you get that bird's nest is you're going to want to set your spool to open spool. You're going to want to grab that line. You're going to want to pull gently to see if that line starts coming out of the bird's nest. If that doesn't come out of that backlash and bird's nest, that means you do have a problem and you're going to have to go further in to get that line out. But don't panic. I've got more steps to show you how to get that wrapped up line out. Okay, so you pull on your line when it's set to free spool and nothing happens. Don't worry, that normally is the case whenever you get a bird's nest. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to examine the spool, and I'm going to look for a piece of line. Normally when you get a bird's nest, there's going to be a piece of line that's wrapped tightly over top of your line, all over the spool and the line all over. There's one really tight piece of line. You can grab that piece of fishing line that's wrapped around the spool, and if you pull it back while you're still set to free spool, sometimes you can pull that line. What that's going to do is it's going to create slack in your entire spool. You're going to be able to just to pull the bird's nest out. When I say pull up, you're going to grab a hold of that tight piece of line that's over top of all the line in the knot. I'm going to pull it towards myself while the bait caster is pointing away from me. So I'm pulling it, I'm pulling it, and I'm pulling it, and eventually you're going to be able to pull all that bird's nest out if that is the case. If that line's too tight for you to get your fingers around that top crossover line, then you're going to have to go get a screwdriver, and I'll show you what you do with that screwdriver in the next step. Okay, so guys, so you got your screwdriver. First thing I want to say is get a flathead screwdriver. Second thing I want to say is don't panic. We're not taking your reel apart. You're going to take that flathead screwdriver. As you can see in the video, I'm going to put that flathead underneath that tight piece of line that's on top that I just spoke about. I'm going to start pulling towards myself like we did, like I said you could do with your fingers if it's loose enough, but if it's not loose enough, then use the screwdriver. You're going to create leverage in there, and you're going to use that kind of like a winch to kind of pull out that line. Once you get a hold of the line, when it's out enough, you can grab it with your fingers and you can start pulling and stripping all that line out. What that's going to do is it's going to take that tight line in the bird's nest, and you're going to be able to loosen it all up and pull it out. Once you do that, there's another step that I use to help prevent getting further bird's nests in the future. Congratulations, you got your bird nest out. Now let's move on to the step I use to keep myself from getting more bird's nests in the future. So I'm going to take my line and I'm going to crank it down as tight as I can onto my spool using my other hand holding the line. It's pretty much what you see people do in sporting goods stores when they crank braid onto a reel. They put that spool in that machine, they spool it up real tight. I'm doing the same thing with braid or mono, especially remember to do this with mono and braid. It doesn't matter. Keep that line as tight as you can on your spool. Do it with braid or mono. Use your hand holding the line and start cranking onto that spool. What that's going to do is it's going to create a really tight spool of line. So when you cast, your line isn't going to have slack and it isn't going to move around the spool and make another bird's nest and just make this big mess of your reel like you already had happen. I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching the video again, and like and subscribe for more fishing content like I always say. Hope y'all catch a big one and have a nice day.